and they only used a phasing generation of sideband for a couple of years, and then everybody went to filter technique to do the sideband generation. Anyway, I did turn down the audio a tiny bit. I don't know if that makes any difference or not. I am a little surprised to hearing what I did hear on your recording of me. It does sound a little bit rough, and I'm really hoping I can track that down and see what the problem is. It shouldn't sound quite that rough. So, I don't know. You know, it's old equipment. What can I say? And yes, your signal is wonderful. The audio is fantastic. But I am very familiar with the pure signal. Although I run quite a few old pieces of equipment, I have 8 or 9 complete stations here. Everything from radio all the way up to a modern non-SDR Apache Labs SDR radio, which I also run with pure signal. So you can't beat pure signal. It is just phenomenal. So I am very familiar with it, and everybody who uses it, the audio is just fantastic. So anyway, you should be able to see this heatkit station, the World War II radio I can tell you about next go around.
Hello. SMK07.
I don't know if my audio improved a tiny bit or not. Let me know. Here's WB2LOI.
Yeah, WB2LOI. Listen, I'm doing something for you, Harley. Go on YouTube and type in my call sign, and you will be able to tune into the live stream. So I just started the live stream with a direct input from what's happening here, and I think it should be okay. I think it should be okay. Yeah. So yeah, I have the live stream turned on, so you can have a listen for yourself how it sounds. You can check it out for yourself, and I'll let the live stream roll on when we finish the QSO. So you have a very, very nice recording. Very pleased to do that for you. No problems at all. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, I can see the gear now. I can see the heatkit. Seems absolutely phenomenal because, you know, this is real vintage. So does it have tubes in there, or was it already transistor based radios? Over.
Oh no, this is completely tube, absolutely completely tube radio. I don't think there's a single solid state component in it. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fantastic. Absolutely great. Absolutely great. Yeah. That's real vintage. Yeah, I don't know if you bought it all these years back, or you have been able to purchase it somewhere, maybe on the internet, or because, you know, they're very hard to find. I think they're pretty precious these days. Over.
I have had this transmitter since 1966 or 67, so it's been with me quite a while. The receiver I picked up maybe 15 or 20 years ago, and the amplifier I picked up about 10 or 15 years ago. So I've had the equipment for quite a long period of time. And in fact, I used this transmitter with the sideband adapter from 1966 all the way to 1990. It was my primary rig for all those decades. And then in 1990, I decided to buy my first new piece of amateur radio equipment, and I purchased a TS940. Which you can also see on the QRZ page. I still have the 940, and I ran the 940 from 1990 to about 2000 and I don't know, 2015 maybe, which is about the time I got the Anon. So I don't. Those are the only two pieces of new equipment I ever bought: the TS940 in 1990 and the Anon in I think it was 2015. I don't remember the exact year. Otherwise, I have a lot of old equipment which I enjoy keeping in excellent shape. Now, the World War II radio was actually given to me by my high school physics teacher back in 1962 or 63, and it's the radio that got me interested in getting a amateur radio license. So he wanted to encourage me. He knew I was very technically interested and technically inclined. And they were cleaning out the attic of the high school, and they had this old war surplus radio, which they were going to dispose of, and he suggested that he gave it to me to take home and use it, which I did. It was a learning experience because it wasn't a radio that you could just plug into the power receptacles in your house. I had to get some high voltage batteries and do all kinds of things to get it to operate. But I still have it, and it still works perfectly from all the way from World War II. It's about 80 years old, and I haven't had to replace a single component. It still works, and I still use it. Anyway, let me get back to you. And okay, can I view the YouTube video of the live stream after the QSO, or is it only taking place while we're doing the QSO? So I wonder if if it's actually going to be available after the QSO, so I can listen to it a little more comfortably, because I don't have a computer next to the old tube equipment, and so it's a little bit awkward for me to get to a computer right now. So let me know if it's going to be available after the QSO, and also, once again, how do I get to it? What address do I put in there? I think you said your call sign, but I'm just wondering what the exact URL is. ON7OFF WB2LOI.
QSL, no problem, Harley. This is Oscar November 7, Oscar Foxtrot, returning to looking Whiskey Bravo to Lima Oscar India. Okay, QSL, yeah. No, you just go to YouTube and type in my call sign. And I've named the YouTube live stream with your call sign. So you will be able to also search your own call sign in the search engine of YouTube when the live stream is finished. So you can eventually tune in and have a look or have a listen. No problem. It's saved anyway on the YouTube platform, and it will be available there for as long as YouTube exists. So I hope they will keep everything online for the longest period of time, so we can always dream back when the propagation cycle is at its end, and we have these conversations from over the pond. So yeah, fantastic. Yeah, if you have an Anon, well, it's a fantastic radio, and I really like the Hermes Light because it's very cheap, it's very economical, and it has the same functionalities as the Anon, with a couple of differences, but they are not that much. So it has to do with, probably you can do diversity with the Anon, at least with the newest ones. I'm not sure with the one that you have, but there's a lot of possibilities, of course, that are available only on Anon, but not on the Hermes. But the Hermes is very inexpensive. It's a piece of equipment that is genius. They built it around a processor that was normally supposed to be used for broadband routers, and They have been building the entire radio around it, and I find it absolutely fascinating that such a small piece of technology, such a small radio, can produce such a lovely audio, and the receive is phenomenal. But I think it's all in the software, so all the credits go to all the programmers that have been working on the Thetis software. Also, for example, Richie, that is really still very active on the Hermes Light front and on the Thetis software, so MW0LGE. But yeah, that's great. I really love SDR now. I come from the normal traditional radios. I had a TS480, and it took me a while before I started to go over to the SDR radio. I was not sure if it was going to be my thing, because you need to have a computer all the time. But nonetheless, the fact that you have an entire overview of what's happening on the band, it's just absolutely phenomenal. And the new version of Thetis is just improving by every version. I'm currently using the last official version. I already installed a couple of times the RC version, the beta version, because the nightly builds, if I can call it that way. But it seems I get a little bit of an issue with pure signal on my Hermes Light with these beta versions that are currently available for download for a specific group of people. But I've been testing it, and it's great. There's a few new features that are really remarkable, but I'll have to wait until I figure out what's going on with the pure signal. And I get an ADC overload on TX only, so I've got the exact same settings as the normal last version. Back to their Harley, and yeah, I find it really fascinating. You never had to change any component. Boy, they made these radios really robust. Absolutely fantastic. Do you have any amplifier in line, or is this just the raw output power that you get from your heatkit radio? WB2LOI from ON7OFF. Over.
Oh, very good. Very good, Kurt. ON7OFF, WB2LOI. No, I'm running it with the 1960 heatkit amplifier, running about 500 watts to a Mosley PA33. So this is
a little bit of swinging in the frequency.
I'm driving the amplifier with about 50 watts, and it's putting out about 500. But it's the original amplifier from 1960. It belongs to the Heathkit lineup of amateur radio equipment back in many decades ago. A quick question for you, Kurt. In the YouTube video, does it show the waterfall of the signal as well? Because I really want to study the waterfall of my signal very carefully, because I say I'm very paranoid about IMD with these old radios, and particularly when I'm hearing some audio distortion. So I really want to study the waterfall. If that is showing up on the YouTube video. So does it show up there, Kurt? Go ahead.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's showing everything. So you will see it's very, very, how could I say, it's very complete in the way you will be able to visualize it. But the distortion is gone since you turned down the audio a little bit. So I think it's okay now. I forgot to to mention in the excitement of talking to a radio that belongs to 5 generations ago. I just moved up about 80 hertz because you're shifted a little bit. I'm going to go back to the original frequency. I'm just doing it as we speak. So I'm now back on 14216. But no problem. Don't worry. It's working great. Absolutely great. And I have K0PIR is asking about the the VK amp. I just want to know because I got a few viewers, of course, when I turn on the live stream. Kilo Zero Papa India Romeo. You can go to my YouTube channel, look in the videos from Zero to Hero with Hermes light, and I think it's when I talk about the pure signal, there is one video. I think it's number 6 or 7 in the series. You will see the VKM, but also my personal homemade homebrew. This is the homebrew one. It's very easy, cheap to build. I built this one for about, let's say about maybe 25, 30 bucks. So it's very cheap. The most, how could I say, expensive thing is the enclosure, but that's it. The rest is all recovered materials. So that's a little message for K0PIR. Yeah, fantastic. No problem there, Harvey. I really like it when I talk with people with such an old radio, and it's working great. You know, after, what is it, so many years that this radio has been around, and I think you need to warm it up from time to time, so you have some duty to keep the radio running. I'm pretty sure you're maybe the only one left over, just still actively using the heatkit radio. So you have a very unique piece of equipment down in your shack. WB2LOI from ON70FF, over. How you doing?
Okay, ON70FF, WB2LOI. I just retuned the frequency a little bit here because it does indeed drift a little bit. You have to remember that these old radios are all analog radios. There's no digital component at all.
How you doing, Jason?
The frequency is generated through oscillators that are all analog, and they are temperature sensitive. I have spent quite a bit of time over the years.
You want to join in, Jason?
That VFO, and of course I can never get it to the same standards that the modern radios have, but I have it pretty good because in its original state, this VFO would have drifted probably several kilocycles by now with our QSO. Literally would have drifted several kilocycles. So I now have it where it drifts, probably maybe 100 cycles at the most, and then I kind of bring it back. I did put in a VFO stabilization circuit on the VFO to help calm it down, but of course it's never going to be perfect. But at least it's usable to bands today. And a lot of people kind of, complain, oh, you're drifting, I drifted, you drifted 20 hertz, or you drifted 30 hertz, or something. I'm saying, hey, you should be in as healthy condition when you are as old as this radio equipment is. So, anyway. Back then, all the radios drifted, so nobody even commented on it. And now, of course, none of the radios drift at all. And so people get all kinds of upset when they hear a little bit of drift. Well, that's just the way it is, and that's just the way it's going to be. So very good. I'm curious. You indicated that my audio did clean up after I turned the audio down a little bit. Is it now that I've retuned the frequency? I've got the audio down a little bit. So is it? Do you hear any appreciable distortion at this point? Because it did sound a little bit rough before, so I'm kind of curious if it really, you're still detecting some distortion, or if it just sounds like a restricted bandpass that a lot of these older rigs, typically have. ON7 OFF WB2LOI.
Yeah, QSL, no problems. Yeah, it's cleaned up, so I don't hear any distortion whatsoever right now. Maybe it was because you had to warm up. I don't know what was the reason, but it was just slightly distorted. I just wanted to let you. It was a little bit rough on the edges. When I played it back, you heard it, but now it's perfect. I can tell you, for a radio that is so old, it's absolutely phenomenal. It reminds me, I'm working on I'm a perfumer, and I work on the handicraft market in Brussels, and I got a very, very old heater, a very, very old heater. My grandmother, she bought it when I was like 2 weeks old. I was born in January, right in the middle of winter. And my mom dropped me off at my grandma's place when I was like 1 or 2 weeks old. And she wanted to have a heater to keep me warm. And still today, I'm just having that heater. I take it still with me to the market. But the thing is, when I start it up, it makes a lot of noise. It screams like, oh, oh, oh. It's this motor that, the bearings that are just screaming out loud. But it's just the first few minutes, like maybe 2-3 minutes. It's such a noisy heater when I turn it on that everybody comes and look, what's going on? What's that noise? And I just keep on telling them, this is my grandmother's heater, and I just still use it right now. It's just a fantastic heater. It heats up everything, and it's fantastic. So, yeah, absolutely insane. So, and that was a Philips heater. If you buy a heater these days, you won't go very long, or you won't go very far. After a couple of years, they just go silent key. But this heater just keeps on going. 53 years, mate. So it's just absolutely insane. And it's remarkable when somebody makes a purchase like 53 years ago, exactly the same as my age. You still think about that little thing that my grandma bought, 53 years ago. So it's crazy that, it's the butterfly effect, HI. Back to you there, Harvey. Whiskey Bravo 2 Lima Oscar India. From Oscar November 7, Oscar Foxtrot, over.
Oh, very good, Kurt. ON7 OFF WB2LOI. I see I have drifted up a little bit, but I'm going to leave it alone here. I'm sure I'm still reasonably copyable, even though it drifted a tiny bit. Anyway. Yeah, very good, Kurt. Yes. Well, it kind of reminds me when I first got married. The expression is we were living hand to mouth. Okay, yeah, we did not have very much money. Wait a minute, I'm gonna retune you again. Hang on a second. It's drifting a little more than I would like. All right, let's try that. Okay, anyway, we had precious few dollars when I first got married, and we had to, when we had got an apartment, we had to get a refrigerator. Well, we couldn't go out and just buy a refrigerator, so we had to get a second-hand refrigerator, and we found this refrigerator. I think it was made in the 1930s. But it was still working, okay, and so it was like a 30-40-year-old refrigerator when we bought it for just a few dollars, and we brought it into the house and whatever, and we ran that thing for years and years and years, and the only reason we finally got a new refrigerator was because the seal, the rubber seal around the door had disintegrated, and you couldn't really just go out and buy a new rubber seal for a 50-year-old or whatever old it was refrigerator. So so we had to replace it.
Let me know when it comes
but,
back,
you know, the compressor
Jason. Okay.
was still working, you know, and now I can't tell you how many refrigerators we have gone through over the years. Now, when you buy a refrigerator, you're lucky if you get 7 to 10 years out of it. And they are guaranteed to die certainly within 10 years. And I've never seen anything like it. You know, they built things back then. They lasted forever. And you know, they say that compressor, you know, was still working. I don't know what they used for the gas in there. I don't even know if they had Freon. I have no idea what was in there, but none of it leaked out, and the motor was still working, and the refrigerator was working. And like I say, we just had to get rid of it because you couldn't really get the door to seal reasonably well. So. And also we needed a larger refrigerator, so that was another reason. But anyway, you know, the expression "they don't make them like they used to" really is correct, I must say. And this old radio equipment, you know, if it's taken care of, they'll last indefinitely. You know, let's face it. I love the modern SDRs. As you do, but I don't know what will happen in 10 or years or something like that if the FPGA gives up the ghost or something, or any of the integrated circuits. If you can.
Hey, how you doing, Andy? How you doing, mate?
Get replacements and things like that. You know, they work wonderfully. They're very reliable, but ultimately, when they break down, I think you're going to have to just throw them out. And that just seems to be part of the overall philosophy of manufacturing these days. You don't build things for repair, you build things to just replace. It's really, really unfortunate. I had an example of that with an oven that we had here. We had a Bosch cooktop oven, which we only had for about 7 or 8 years. It stopped working. I didn't want to, you know, tear it all apart, whatever, so I called the repair place.
How you doing, Robert?
Wanted some insane amount of money to fix it. They wanted like over $1,000 to fix it. So I decided we'd tear it apart, or I could take it apart.
Andy, get a
bad capacitor. I went down
get
to
a computer power supply.
25 cents. I repaired it. But they don't
And do
want
the
to
hack.
things these days. They just want to throw things out. Anyway,
I'll type the model number and give you the link. Hold on a moment. Yeah, QSL, Whiskey Bravo 2 LOI, ON7 OFF returning. No problem. Yeah, it's true what you say. Back in the old age, they made all these devices that were old school, but they had probably over-dimensioned spare parts in there, and they lasted a century. So, but these days everything is made to last just a specific amount of time, and it strikes me that most of the time when you buy equipment like a computer or something that is controlled by a processor or whatever, that I think they're built in some timer or something like that, that randomly between a specific time and another specific time, that it just fails. It's programmed to fail. They need to make their business going. So it's unfortunate. And what really annoys me most, and no offense to people using these devices, are brand names like Tesla, iPhone, Apple, all these brand names. They're doing serialization, and this is really what really makes me upset. I'm not sure if you're aware of serialization, what it means. If you have an iPhone, you want to change the screen, you can't. It needs to go through a official repair system or a repair center, because the software inside and the hardware needs to match up. And if you do not have the appropriate reprogram equipment, you're not allowed to change the screen or even a battery or whatever. So you cannot change it. It's the same with John Deere. Is the same with these electric vehicles. So, you know, if you have an electric vehicle and you want to change anything, you in the future you won't be able to do it just by not going to the official dealer. You need to go through their hands before you can do anything, and they do not allow actually to do any modification. In the long run, even if you want to change a wiper of your windscreen of the car, you will need to go to an official dealer, because it will have a little chip built in there, and if the serial number does not match what's in the software, it just doesn't work. So, and in fact, we go from a ownership economy to a economy where you rent everything. You can see it also in software. If you go online or you use the software that these days, it's all with subscription based systems. So I remember the days where you had Photoshop, where you buy the software and you own it. But nowadays it's software with subscriptions. And we're going further and further away to a world where, you know, you will owe nothing and you're supposed to be happy. But yeah, that's another story. But yeah, it's not nice. I prefer to have something. You buy it, you own it, and if I buy a cell phone, I always go for a cell phone brand name that gives me the possibility where I can change the screen, I can change the battery, I can change it, because I have two hands. And the thing that we know, you don't have ownership on these devices anymore. It not only just rips you off, but also people become stupid, because you cannot do anything anymore. It's all in the hands of the manufacturer. Back to you there, Harvey. Whiskey Bravo 2, Lima, Oscar, India. Oscar, November 7, Oscar, Foxtrot, Foxtrot. Over.
Oh, yes. ON7OFS, WB2LOI. Yes, I'm aware of the serialization. And I don't know what the most recent thing here in the United States is, but I believe there was some talk about passing some legislation to prevent that type of thing from continuing, where there was a right to repair legislation that was going to be I don't know where that stands. Whether they passed it, or if the large companies have squashed that legislation or not. But there was significant talk about a right to repair legislation, so that consumers have the ability to actually fix the items that they have purchased, which only seems reasonable to me. You know, once you pay your money, it belongs to you. But that's not the way the business model these companies want to have. They want you to pay the money, and then they kind of consider that that's just a down payment to the overall rental of using the equipment. So you continually have to pay and pay and pay and pay. It's a good business model if you're a business, but it's a terrible business model if you're a consumer. And that's all part of the give and take of the economy that the modern economy, and also part of the frustration that people feel, which has kind of led to a little bit of underlying anger. Many issues that irritate people. I know it certainly irritates me, because those of us who are technically inclined, I don't necessarily enjoy fixing things, but I have the capability of doing it. I don't like being locked out of repairing a piece of equipment that I own. So anyway, that's one of the reasons I enjoy these older radios, Kurt. You know, I can just continually repair them when they break down. They don't break down that often. You know, each one of them has gone through a fairly expensive overhaul over the years. Except for that World War II rig, which amazingly enough has never needed anything. But all the others, you know, I've changed the capacitors and you know, some of the resistors have drifted in value. So I've gone through and sort of reconditioned all the equipment I have here, at least most of them. You know, just keep running and running and running. When you do that, the amazing thing, as I mentioned, with the World War II piece of equipment, when they built it, I mean, you have to remember that obviously they were building it to survive some rather rigorous environmental conditions, because the radio that I have was meant as a combat radio, and had to survive, you know, being in foxholes and all kinds of horrible conditions. But what they did, first of all, I think they used quality components, but secondly, they put a coating on everything. The whole chassis with all the components has a conformal coating of some sort. I don't know what they use. Some type of lacquer or some type of highly resilient coating that kept the moisture out and also prevented fungus from growing, because I use these things in the jungles and in Asia and the Pacific areas. And so they coated everything with this water proof fungus-resistant coating. And I think what happened is that in combination with them using good components, you know, the components did not degrade as anywhere near as rapidly as other components used to. So that coating made a big difference. But it really surprised me, because when I first got that radio back in the 1960s, it was only 20-some years old, which, you know, was not all that old. And I hooked up some batteries, and I got the receiver section to work. But I wasn't licensed, so I never got the transmitter to function. In any event, I just kept the radio around for many decades. And then about 10 years ago, when the radio was, 65 or 70 years old, 10 years ago, I found the
Hey, Carol, how you doing?
Thanks
for tuning in, mate.
The transmitter. And I just hooked it up and turned it on, and everything worked perfectly. I was a little bit nervous when the high voltage came up as to what was going to happen with a 65, 70-year-old piece of equipment. But everything just turned on and works perfectly, and I still use it to this day, Kurt. So anyway, I think that they built it for combat conditions, they waterproofed it, and that's why it still functions so well. You won't find very many pieces of equipment like that around. Not these days. Anyway, ON7OFF WB2LOI.
Yeah, QSL WB2LOI ON7OFF. Yeah, absolutely. That's correct. And as much as I love the Hermes light, there's one thing that right in the back of my mind just keeps on eating my conscience. And that is, the Hermes light is perfect. It's a fantastic radio. But in the event of a war, in the event of a failure of internet, in the event of a failure of power grid issues, whatever, it's not a convenient radio to be using in these conditions. So that's the only thing where I think about all the time, and this is what keeps me not to trash or ditch my old gear equipment like my Kenwood TS480 or any other radio that could eventually be run off of a battery. So you don't need a computer, you fire it up and you're good to go. Because you never know with everything that's going around in the world. You never know, because don't forget, many people, they don't realize amateur radios are the backup for communication in case something goes seriously wrong, you know? And everything that we have these days, it's all focused on digital. It's all digital. It's all internet focused. But the first thing that happens when there is something like a war or something that happens, when the power grid goes down, internet goes down, and everything is done. We will all start to look up from our smartphones. And this is where people might just come back into the ham radio world, you know. So that's something that is quite important to understand. And, you know, Harvey, something that people do not realize, I actually am very sure that within a matter of maybe 5 to 10 years, maybe even earlier, I'm not sure, I'm just wishful thinking, but from the exponential growth of what happens with the technology, we've got AI, we've got quantum computers. There's something right now these days, I'm not sure if you ever heard about it, it's SND DL, I think it is called. Yeah, it stands for store now, decrypt later. Okay, store now, decrypt later. Now, what this is all about? Countries like, you know, the US, maybe Europe, maybe Russia, I don't know, different countries, they're just capturing the traffic on internet. So they're just capturing it and storing it somewhere on a hard drive or on a storage device. And you know, most of the traffic on internet is encrypted. Everything is encrypted. All the banking thing that you're doing is encrypted. All the emails, maybe that's not encrypted, but a lot of things are encrypted. The websites are encrypted. We do not have the technology at the moment as we speak to decrypt everything, okay? But when quantum computers come into play, it is very plausible that in the future, what could be done is that the quantum computers, they will be able to decrypt everything. So now just imagine, even if the data is from dating back from 20, 30, 40 years ago, and there is encrypted information being transported on the internet, and it can be even just official things like, you know, phone calls or whatever, and it cannot be decrypted today, but it can be decrypted later. The entire base of internet will be completely eroded, and it will have no how could I say, it will just break the internet. It will break everything that has to do with communication and everything, because if you encrypt everything and it can be decrypted, imagine everything is not encrypted, even classified information, whatever, then everything just starts to fail. And I think, you know, I'm in IT. I've been working in IT before. I personally think that we're going to head somewhere in the future into a situation where we will be able to decrypt everything that has been stored today. So, and then we will go back to a ham radio, because that's the only communication that is reliable. Back to you there. Whiskey Bravo 2 LOI ON7 OFF, over.
Very interesting. ON7 OFF WB2 LOI. Yeah, that's what I like about ham radio. You can really get into very, very interesting conversations. That's something I hadn't considered before, but I agree that undoubtedly will occur. and they'll go back to passing handwritten notes for in diplomatic pouches again and things like that. I think is going to happen. So that's going to be interesting. And yeah, in terms of the potential issues with modern equipment and whatever, and breakdown of the internet and whatever, I think the most likely scenario of something occurring would be a massive solar flare. Which would, take out satellites, certainly bring down power grids, and the internet would be toast, whatever. So that is something where kind of, people have considered this and whatever, but I'm not sure how much can be fully hardened for one of those, once in a century, or even once in every 2 centuries, whatever, major solar flares that just would totally take out all kinds of electronics. And, that would, I think that, I don't even want to think about wars, okay? Certainly that's when you look around the world, I mean it is not a very pleasant situation. But if any sanity is maintained in the higher echelons of power, hopefully major wars of that sort will be avoided. But I'm not taking any guesses in that, but solar flares are not something that have any human control, and I know they're trying to harden things, but I mean, there's only so much you can do. I don't know what I do with satellites, GPS, and the overall power grid. I mean, it's almost impossible to do the type of hardening that would be necessary if a major flare occurs, and I have no idea how long things would be disrupted, depending on how much of the grid goes down, how many major transformers and things that you can't just produce in a day or two, how long would it take those to be replaced, and who knows what. So you're right. Amateur radio does provide that can be available if such a situation occurs. And I'm saying this part jokingly, but my World War II rig also has a hand crank generator. So the only thing is, it takes 2 people, one to operate the radio and the other to spend all their energy running the hand crank generator. But I do have that as well, so I'm all set there. That's WB2LOI.
QSL WB2LOI from Oscar November 7, Oscar Fox. Yeah, absolutely. I do understand, and internet is very vulnerable. People, they do not realize. I'm not sure if you are aware how internet works, but there is just, big hubs, big points where all things come together, and cables are hanging in the sea. So there is, for example, a couple of cables. You can go online and you can see where all these cables are. And you saw what happened there with the cable between Finland and Germany, I think it was. It just takes a ship with an anchor to break it, and that's done. Of course, there are backups. I've been working in IT, and I was working for an internet service provider here in Belgium, and it was a loop. So there was a loop of fiber optic cables all over Europe, going from Paris, going to Lisbon in Portugal, from there to Madrid, from there to Rome in Italy, and then in Switzerland, and it went all around. And if one area or one cable is broken, the loop continues to work. But if you have two failures on the loop, the internet stops. And I have witnessed the two failures because the company went bankrupt, and we were in the NOC, the Network Operating Center. I was part of it. And when the company went bankrupt, they wanted to shut down everything. So, but I and my friends, we decided to lock the door so they couldn't come in and shut it down. And we kept the network alive for another week and a half. We even had to go and beg for people, sending them money and filling up the fuel tank of power generators in the different points of presence, different pops. So I've witnessed, and it just opened my eyes how vulnerable internet is, because if you just maybe cut down one cable, it's okay. But if you start to cut down like 10 cables, 20 cables, it can just engage internet completely. It can just completely ruin internet, and it's done. You're gone. You're done. And you're isolated. And it's not that they can repair it overnight. It takes a lot of effort, time, and knowledge. And the number of engineers that are able and capable of repairing these kind of things is very limited. The resources are very limited. So it is a very vulnerable system. And I think a lot of the politicians, they take it all for granted. Everything needs to be money-wise, they try to criminalize cash everywhere in the world, whether it's in the US or in Europe. They want to criminalize cash, but they criminalize it and they push it into a cashless society. But if things, they go wrong and go south, you are nowhere with your cashless society if you do not have any cash. And they do not realize how vulnerable they're actually making our entire economical system. Anyway, there's a lot of things I can discuss, but yeah, I'll pass microphone back to you. Your signals start to drop a little bit, so I'm not sure if the propagation is going to hold up, but we'll see what happens. Whiskey Bravo 2, Lima Oscar India, from Oscar November 7, Oscar Foxtrot Foxtrot, over.
ON70FF, WB2LOI, yeah, very interesting code. Yeah, well, I hear what you're saying, and it is not as secure as a lot of people have think. Things are working well. I take it all for granted that it's just going to continue to work well. But we're building quite an infrastructure on a base that has some weak links, such as those cables and whatever. And it's one thing to have countries adversarial doing things to one another, disrupt things, whatever. But some of the vulnerable points, that's a major operation, highly developed military or something like that to disrupt things. As you pointed out, it's dragging an anchor to break those undersea cables. It's not exactly the highest technology to disrupt a system that our major technologies depend upon. I mean, just an iron anchor will do the job. It's not some highly sophisticated device that they military has built to disrupt it. So what concerns me is the ease of which some of these global sites can be disrupted, and doesn't necessarily require state actors to cause those disruptions. Just some highly motivated individual and whatever, and that's a great concern. But also, I go back to my major concern is because those types of things usually can only do on a somewhat local basis. It does a tremendous amount of damage and interfere in a particular area, but dragging that cable, breaking the cable does not break the entire internet, just the location. Whereas a solar flare, that's potentially possible. That's a scary situation. I don't really know what people. I just don't know how the powers that be are really hard things to do something in Japan, which is the most likely. We're all vulnerable, but people have gotten used to, at least in what have gotten used to a fairly easy life, and everybody thinks that it just continues like that. I think one of the wake-up calls was when the pandemic or whatever, and people realize we live in advanced society and we're susceptible to these viruses that are killing thousands and thousands of people. It's kind of a shock when things like that happen. But we've gotten through life, myself included.
Starting to fade away.
The body is just what it is. And we're building with a shot to see how easily our biological systems could be disrupted by this visible virus organism, so to speak. But our technological stuff, that we've got so used to thinking about, also has its vulnerabilities that most people just don't consider so worried. But I don't know. We all have to keep our sanity. We all have to kind of keep that once in a while. There are so many things to worry about. If you really want to worry about things, it almost paralyzes you. We sort of have to get over that continuous fear as well, because a lot of these fears that politicians manipulate. That's not really it. It's been a wonderful conversation. What do you copy? Talking to ourselves, and I'm going to go on YouTube. See if I can for a final before we go over. Anyway, it's great. I love having long to it. Across the pond. Finally, more and more, keep my enthusiasm. Even though amateur radio is not my California USA don't. But anyway, I love amateur radio as well. Okay, let me get back to this. This is what amateur radio is all about. OM7.
Nope. The band is not cooperating. Yeah, QSL. Okay, Whiskey Bravo 2 Lima Oscar India. Oscar November 7 Oscar Fox Fox. I'm not sure if you can see it, but the band is just starting to close down for me, so I'm starting to have some difficulties to copy you there, Harvey. With that said, I will wish you a fantastic afternoon or evening down your way. It's been a great pleasure to have this extended conversation with you. I wish you a very, very good evening, and hopefully we can talk to you soon again. Wish you also happy holidays, and God bless you. Thank you very much. We can continue the QSO maybe in the future when we cross aerials again. Whiskey Bravo 2 Lima Oscar India. This is Oscar November 7 Oscar Foxtrot Foxtrot 73s, and thanks again. Over.
Okay, very good. Yeah, the company. So, settling thank you very much. Have a very happy holiday and happy New Year. And I hope to contact you again and we can continue on. I love these long QSOs. 73. Liam 7 OFF, WB2LOI.
73s. Good luck. Bye bye. 73. So in 7 OFF QRT. Bye bye. Hey guys. Long QSO. Very long QSO. I think about an hour. But great conversation. I really love these kind of nice contacts where you can have a little bit of a rack chew. I love the Hermes for rack chewing. Hermes is really great. Let me just cruise around the band a little bit more, see if there's anything special, and otherwise we'll call it a day. Very interesting QSO. Just reset my RIT and see. I see one big signal right here. That's the Spanish station. Also 4K white.
Eu compreendo perfeitamente. Então, mas ó, Caneira, porque é que eles não proíbem? Porque é que eles não proíbem que eles andam aí a meter azote no ar com drones para com sal e fazer bombas de sal e o caralho?
How you doing, Alex? It's been a long time, mate. Good to see you just before Christmas and New Year, so I can wish you already a nice Christmas and New Year season. Guys, I'm not sure if I'll continue. I was thinking of making some videos about the history of radio for me. Like, you know, how I got in touch with radio, and I might just do a new series on the YouTube channel here. Like, you know, all kinds of anecdotes, things that I've experienced, crazy things, all that kind of stuff. I think it might be an interesting thing to do, is just talk about how I got into radio and all that kind of stuff, and crazy things that happened. So that would be something like a different approach, you know, giving you some background also about myself. So, you know, can be very interesting. You might find things that, you know, happen to me, maybe also to you, you know, and maybe eventually make some podcasts or interviews of people who have also very interesting stories to tell about radio. So that would be great. Okay, I'll leave it here. Thanks for tuning in. It's great to have so many viewers, and I'll maybe work a little bit more on the Titis software video series, because there's a new version that's coming up, and I got early access to the candidates and the nightly builds. And I might just, you know, give a couple of things of features that will be available in the next one. It is really becoming very good. So Richie is doing an excellent job in improving Thetis to a point where no other software can really catch up with Thetis anymore. So it's crazy. Okay, guys, thanks. Thank you, Bram. Drum, I think. Also, thank you also to Alex, Andy. Who else is in there? So a lot of people, you guys have fun. If I forgot to mention your name, sorry about that. But 73s, I'm going to turn off the live stream. ON7OFF, you know what I'll do? I'll just turn off my camera, turn off the microphone, and just go to a frequency and let it roll on for another 5 minutes. So if you guys want to do any tests or with your gear, it's free to be used for another 73s. So ON7OFF, we're signing off and turning on the radio again. I'll go to a frequency where there's nothing.
So,
Let me tune to a frequency where there's really nothing, because I hear some noises. So like here, okay, 200, there you are. So I'll let it sit here on 14200 for another 5 minutes. So if you want to see if you're still coming in here, if the propagation is open, just go ahead, and I will turn it on and off in 5 minutes if I see nobody is using it. 73s, bye bye guys.